This is the one and only Mr. LP, Steven Sykes of Enliven Global Media. And we are here Friday, the 17th, to talk about a very important issue, a variety of topics with regarding COVID-19 and everything associated with it. And I have these beautiful, lovely queens here ready to join us in this conversation. And I have, let them introduce themselves. I have Miss RAWSILK.
Hey everybody, it's your girl RAWSILK, author, entrepreneur, and looking forward to this interesting conversation with these dynamic queens and Mr. LP.
Thank you very much. And you young lady down here on Laws, Miss Real Talk.
Hi, yes, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. LP. Happy Friday. And thank you so much for these great women, Gwen and Tracy. I'm looking forward to have a great topic on this important topic that was at hand. And I have two companies, Real Talk of Monica and Rising to a Success.
Awesome. And I have Miss SHOECRAZYWINE here.
Hi, I'm Gwen Hurt, and again, I'm very excited to be on this panel with these ladies discussing a topic that's been very close, that has hit very close to home in my family. And I know that wine doesn't solve everything, but it'll solve a little bit. So we'll share that too.
It definitely helps. So thank you ladies again for joining us and things. And you know, if anything you see or missing, please join on in. First and foremost, I want to ask, and just not be rude, how are you surviving? What's going on for you? How are things going for you regarding the coronavirus? RAWSILK?
Well, I mean, for me, like I was sharing off camera, I'm essential personnel. So up until yesterday, I was working, and it was tough because, you know, I'm not embarrassed to say, you know, I have health challenges, asthma and COPD. So I'm on that high risk list. So being essential personnel and being on a high risk list is really, really difficult. That and the fact that I live an hour away from where I work. So the commute and having to stop at gas stations and things of that nature was really concerning for me. And one of the things that we don't realize until this pandemic of how many things we touch on a daily basis without even giving it a second, you know, out of second thought. But for anybody that doesn't know, outside of allergens and everything, asthma and COPD can also be triggered by stress and aggravation. And so just the stress of trying to be extra cautious, trying not, you know, to be protective, you know, wear protective stuff, it just got overwhelming. And so it's like Gwen said, this has hit my family personally. I've lost someone due to this virus. I've lost a friend due to this virus. I got 3 people that's in hospitals right now because of this virus that's near and dear. So I'm just like stressed. Yeah. Is a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Ms. Real Talk?
Yes, I used to be an essential worker when I used to work at the post office for like 14 years. And I thank God I have some retirement through them. So with all of that said, I did leave out because of health conditions. I have an autoimmune deficiency triggered from Steven Johnson when I got sick back in 2010. And so it did not personally affect me right now with anybody affecting with COVID-19. But I do want to send my prayers to Tracy family and to Gwen's family or anybody that's, matter of fact, affected by COVID-19. I just recently posted on James Harris. He lost 2 family members last night back to back. So this is a really serious topic. I'm glad we're discussing, especially for African Americans. We need to get that stigma that us is a very high target for this disease, with this virus.
Ms. Gwen?
Yeah, I second and third everything that, you know, these ladies have said. And I think if I had to say anything about this pandemic, it doesn't necessarily have to be the virus that that affects you personally, but because it's this pandemic, you can lose a family member for lack of attention at a hospital. Because their focus is on, you know, those with the COVID-19. And if your family member is an elderly person, to me, it's almost like they're expendable. You know, my mom is the one that passed, and we don't know if she had the virus or not. But what we do know is that there was negligence at the hospital, and she passed away, you know, by herself. They wouldn't let us even put a phone in the room. I can only call it the coldness of how we as human beings are being treated during this pandemic is just mind-boggling to me. You know, you should be able to have a phone in your family member's room so that you can at least say goodbye, you know, or that we're here thinking about you, we love you, you know, and that part of it is gone. The human touch factor with this virus is gone. It is gone. You are on your own if you are infected by this virus. And I also had my son who was very sick. And, you know, when he called me, he's in Massachusetts and I'm in Virginia, you know, and I'm thinking, you've got to go old school and treat this thing, you know, so you have to go back to what your grandmothers and your great grandmothers said, you know, to kind of fight this thing. And then I, you know, said to him, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm putting on a garbage bag, gloves, and a whatever, and your mama's coming. Okay, and she's coming with some Robitussin and some Vicks and whatever. So, you know, he ended up having his in-laws come over and provide those things for him. But I was ready to get in the car and I'm driving to Mass. I'm taking the 12-hour drive and I'm going through the hot spot in New York. I don't care. That's my, you know, that's my baby still. And it's that type of thing that is most affected by this, is that families are not able to say, let me help you. Isn't that awful? Let me help you. You can't even offer a hand with this, and that's the saddest part. The human touch part is gone.
You're seeing a lot of situations and stories where nurses are giving people their cell phones. In some cases, hospitals are telling them not to get back to work, and you know, all these different things. We're missing the PCA, personal care assistant. Although that's a position, but the personal care, like you mentioned, people are not able to do anything. We're seeing situations like recently here in Richmond. There's a nursing home that's suffering. Almost 50 people who have passed from that nursing home. We've seen hot spots around the country. People, there's a port manufacturing or company in South Dakota that's having like 700 people affected, which is a variety of different things. So we needed to take care of it. Why, one of the topics I wanted to discuss is, why are we people of color, Black and brown, Hispanics, indigenous families and groups are just not responding, and we're fighting through a lot of the different stereotypes a lot of people are falling for, what some celebrities are saying that is just not there, is us. And then I've recently experienced a situation where a lady at a grocery store said that someone was saying, well, where's your mask? And she said, only Black people or white people who are mixed with Black people are involved in it and who are dying. And it's just very sad that, you know, this misinformation and people are not accepting the fact that this is a new normal, similar to what we had to go through at 9/11 with security checks and a variety of things that, you know, is a new normal. Every 20 years or 10 years, you have to deal with something new. And this is something that's people are taking a hard time, having a hard time getting used to. Thoughts, ladies?
For me, I first want to extend condolences to Gwen. I didn't know that you lost your mother, and just to piggyback off of her, Mr. LP, I agree with her that the coldness is there. I mean, I had a senior in my building, 78 years old, and it was basically like we had to literally tell them that the man was dying in order for them to respond to come. And my sister had an asthma attack, and I was blown away that she was treated in the parking lot of Henrico Doctors Hospital. They would not even let her, they literally treated her in the parking lot in a tent. So I think that this, I think if anything coming out of this, I agree with Gwen that they need to learn responsiveness. I mean, I have a coworker whose daughter had surgery at 9, and she had to drop her off at the hospital. She wasn't allowed to sit there. She wasn't allowed to wait. So imagine how fearful a 9-year-old child going into surgery alone without their mother. And it's almost as if like you're diseased for not having the disease, which is like really, you know, really, really crazy. So I didn't want to lose your question, but I definitely wanted to emphasize knowing firsthand what Gwen has seen. We always say that nobody should ever die alone. And nobody should ever go through something like that alone. And the fact that I commend you, Gwen, for even being here, because the fact that she lost her mother, and we know that we all would relish in just those final moments of letting them know that we love them and care, and not be able to do that, that breaks my heart. But in answer to your question, Mr. LP, one of the major reasons is the reality is that since we were brought to this country, since we were kidnapped to this country, the playing field has never been easy, and it's never been level. And so the lack of true health care for African Americans and people of color, if we've got to pick and choose, we live in a day and age where we have to pick and choose healthcare versus EM, paying rent, paying car note, and some of the other things or whatever. It's just not there. We see a high GoFundMe has become the burial account for people in the African American community. Now we have to bear some responsibility too, because a lot of us don't want to sacrifice. A lot of us live in this, especially our newer generation, they live in this microwave society. So they just get everything that they want now. Just like perfect example, the stimulus checks came out, and the priority for some wasn't even paying rent, bills, savings, investing. It was go to Walmart and get the big screen TVs that they put on sale. So I think education, I always say over and over again, education is the key to all of this.
Exactly.
Education.
One of the things I want to add to that comment is that reason why they're doing these treatments everywhere in the parking lots, or not even bringing you to the hospital, they feel like they can treat it there, they can, because every hospital is just about, most hospitals are in this crisis mode. And not many people are familiar, outside of those in the medical community, are not familiar with what crisis mode means. And that's where they're having to do things in a different way in terms of taking care of you and things. And it's very hard. It is similar what you may see in some of the medical societies and things as well. So that's where they are coming on in. Just to jump in, we have Miss Toliver. How are you doing today?
We're doing great. We're back in, so everything is smooth now.
Okay, good.
You know, we understand, you know, when you get money like that, you got to jump like that. You know, I understand people is giving you some money, so it's okay. Thing. We're going to continue on, but with the question is, how are you doing? And also, unfortunately, the misunderstanding or the lack of belief that our people of color are not willing to accept it. We're just going around the circle, and we have Miss Real Talk. You know, your thoughts, ma'am?
Yes, yes. I think a lot of it too, when you asked about the issue about why maybe this disease affecting people of color, possibly because it's also the way that we was not taught how to eat properly. That was one of the things too. You know, I grew up in Emporia, Virginia, in a rural community where we sat there and we ate like the pig that, you know, we had raised our own food, but no one told us about eating chitlins, and the factors of some of the things that we do eat can trigger to a lot of health problems that we're, you know, facing with high numbers of diabetes, obesity, and also heart condition. And also that it triggers a lot of these factors that we became one of the ones that's attacking it. But I do like to give credit to CNN, like Don Lemon. I'm gonna look at that, in Vance Jones, that they are gonna be doing the color of COVID-19. It's actually to shine a light and to help take down the stigma about Black Americans, where they think that we can't get the disease at first, only whites can get it. That was the first narrative. And then thank you to Dr. Patricia Harris. She came out and spoke highly about African Americans do need to look into, stop saying the stigma is just only for white people.
Ms. Toliver, you are located in our Midwestern area, the largest cities, and you've seen this firsthand with, you know, family and the world that you're in. I'll let you elaborate on that from there.
Yes, I agree with many of the ladies that spoke. Us as a Black culture, not only just with the coronavirus, it's many diseases that we don't just go to the doctor. We fail to check on our health. I grew up in a family where there was a lot of diabetes, there was a lot of heart problems, and just them going to the doctor just to get checked out because their sugar was high or something was wrong with them. They want to do something else versus going to a doctor and taking care of themselves. So I'm not going to say that that's only just with the Black community, but I noticed that when it comes to checking on their health, it's not much of a priority than it is in different cultures that I've been around. I've been in the medical field also, and I've seen how, people and in medicine can get affected through medicine as well. So I've been on both ends of, in medicine and seeing how medicine affects people from contamination and how people respond to medication as well. To the point that they're holistic with it and they're healing themselves, because many people don't believe that they can heal themselves. And with this coronavirus, people are going down like crazy. And I really pray for our people because, we're so judgmental, like when it comes to, I had a friend, before it became so massive here, I had a friend that told me literally, like, oh, look it up. Black people can't get coronavirus. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like a virus has no color. A virus is thirsty for connection. And if it gets a connection, that's where it's going to be until it can't be there anymore. And it's going to travel like energy. So, we had a small debate. I didn't really entertain it much, but and then sooner or later, everything was a joke to everyone until people start getting affected. And I had really close friends that had people, even coworkers, pass away from this virus. And I started to ask myself, because I go outside without a mask. And I know they like, oh, where are you supposed to wear a mask? But Trump said himself that the people that wear a mask are the people that get affected. Not everyone's supposed to wear a mask. Yes, later on they were recommended that everyone does it. But how would you know who has what? And if you don't wear a mask now here in Chicago, they look at you like you're infected. Like, it was a time I got turned around from just going to a store because I didn't have a cart and I didn't need a cart. They said, oh, you need to have a cart, you need to be, and they literally turned me around. So it's just how it's affecting not only our community, but people, in color, and how families are really like losing the people they love and they're passing away alone and they have nowhere to go to. So I see this harming many people, and even my pastor from my church has been affected, and he knowingly had it and was affecting other people. So it's just it's pretty outrageous here. But,
I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and I thank you for that, because that is something that's pretty crazy. And that people are just not paying attention and taking heed. We're seeing pastors in a lot of churches throughout the country. At least 30 or 40 of them have passed away from situations like that. Ms. Gwen, SHOECRAZYWINE, I got you.
Yes. I actually am a bit shocked about what I just heard. It's the first time I've heard that we had people of color, Black people, saying that they couldn't get a virus.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been all over. I'm sorry.
I have not. That's the first time I'm hearing it is here, and how sad is that? Because like Mia said, is it Mia or Nia? Okay. Mia. Okay. Said it's a virus. A virus doesn't discriminate. It does not discriminate between any humans or any animals. So for that, it says to me that we do live in a world of instant false information on social media, because for something like that to be prevalent, is to me, it's mind-boggling. So that's the first thing. That's the first time I've heard it, and you almost want to hang your head in shame to know that as a group of people, as a culture, would believe something so ridiculous. So that's the first thing for me. I'm shocked. The second is, I grew up a vegetarian, so my mother was a vegan before they had a name for veganism. So we always ate differently. And therefore, you know, for me, when I look at our culture, it is a culture of fried foods and, like you said, things that, you know, we ate. It's peasant food. Chitlins are peasant food. You know, that's eaten all over the world, by the way, for poor people. So it's a poor person staple, those types of cuts of meats and stuff. And Lord knows I like a fried gizzard, so, you know, I'm a vegetarian, but I'll fry a gizzard.
I'm assuming Thanksgiving and Christmas was a challenge, I guess.
It was, well, yeah, as a kid it was very much so. But you get used to it, because that's, you know, basically, you know, all you know is when, you know, you grow up eating that way. But so for me, when you see our culture, it is a situation with no access to medical, right? We have very little access to medical. What happened to my mother is a prime example. She was in a hospital in one of the poorest communities in New York, in the South Bronx. Immigrants, indigents, and poor people. And she was taken to that hospital because the one that my sister wanted her to go to didn't have a bed available. And that was in January. This is before this whole COVID thing happened.
Forgive me to jump in. Which hospital was that, if you don't mind?
That was Lincoln Hospital in New York. And it's in a very poor area. And there's no shame in being poor. I grew up poor, right? My mother used to say, there's no shame in being poor. What's shameful is how you conduct yourself as a poor person, right? That's where it comes in, and where, you know, we don't take care of ourselves. That sneaker is more important than, like you said, saving money, right? So that designer sneaker, that designer handbag, that designer shoe, that designer whatever is more important than putting that same money in a bank account, so that you do have some financial stability when something like this happens. So I have to agree that it's a lack of education, it's a lack of access to health care. And to me, it's just too, I don't even know how to describe it. It's the same thing that walked this president in. You believe a lot of propaganda and hyperbole, right? People, whatever they tell you is true, is what you believe. So if you could believe that a virus doesn't attack you because you're a person of color, that to me is propaganda, and you believe what you're hearing and seeing on social media, and then it becomes like this viral virus, if you will. I think that's the most tragic part of this whole thing, is misinformation, right? And the miscommunication in our culture, and a lack of education, a lack of health care, in just the environment that we're in. And it starts very basic for us. And it starts, like you said, educating us about our finances. We don't get educated. Were you told to save money when you were a kid? Yeah. I wasn't told to save money. There are cultures that the first thing paycheck you get from your job, it goes to the bank. We would go buy clothes with it. You know, so it starts at that basic foundation that we never ever get. Our thought is always on what things can we acquire.
Yeah. One of the things I want to jump to RAWSILK for a second, but one of the things I want to jump in on that is that we look at. Well, I want to go ahead and let RAWSILK go ahead and jump in on that. Go ahead.
One of the things that I wanted to say, because Miss Real Talk and Mia, all three ladies made a statement, but I just want to drill down on it a little further. It all goes back to what I call DNA reprogramming. Okay, and what I mean by that is we eat the things that we eat because historically we were always given the scraps. Okay, we have to learn, okay, that chitlins and all of, like Gwen said, all of those cuts of meat, those things was thrown to our forefathers and stuff or whatever because no one wanted it. It was their garbage. Okay, and that's what we took. We ingested garbage just to survive. And until we reprogram our DNA, okay, and realize that still within our DNA is a slave that's in there with shackles on, and we keep repeating generationally. So people cook what they know because generation after generation after generation, this is what goes on, and no one breaks that cycle. So it continues on and on and on, okay? What I won't do is I won't blame African Americans in particular for not knowing. Health insurance has never been a priority in our community because our community cannot afford health insurance, okay? And so it's a few of us that are lucky enough to either mean, entrepreneurs like these queens here on this thing, or have worked before and had the smarts and someone to mentor them, to show them how to move finances, like Miss Real Talk, that where you could retire early, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. Historically, these are things that's never been for us. I'm old enough to remember when the life insurance man used to come to your house and sign you up and collect your premiums, and you got your book or whatever and stuff. These are things that our grandparents did, you know, on a regular. And so because of that, when I got older, I learned about always having life insurance, where the average African American, the only life insurance that they have right now is from their job. And if they lose their job, then they lose life insurance. So I think it's Mr. LP, all of that unprogramming over and over again, and the people that keep the lies going, okay? The people that constantly pour into our community that this is what's necessary, this is how it is, or whatever and stuff. I mean, you and I, and even you, me, Miss Monica, we've all covered topics about how our community has been brainwashed to believe, like you said, Gwen, those Jordans that are $2.97 in China, but $287 here. Okay, it's all our programming. I gotta get mine. I gotta get it. I gotta get it right now. And if this pandemic hasn't taught us anything, it has shown us that, to be honest with you, for me, I'm even guilty of it. I grew up in New York City, but in our backyard, we had a farm. We had fresh vegetables. We only ate fresh vegetables. We had, my father used to juice everything. Lord knows, we juice everything. We didn't eat a whole lot of processed thing. We only used raw sugar and stuff like that. But you know, when you get older and you put your big girl panties on, you're going to do what you want to do when you want to do it. Okay. And so this is the after effect of that. So I just kind of wanted to, you know, historically give some, because this just didn't happen. Okay. Us not eating correctly just didn't happen. It's learned behavior, and we learned it way back when.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Ms. Real Talk, you coming from a different background similar to what RAWSILK was speaking about regarding our farm and throwing, you know, what was thrown at us. Could you elaborate on that from your perspective?
Yes, well, I grew up, is something going on with my camera? Okay.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, all right. When I grew up in Emporia, Virginia, we was taught about how to grow food and stuff, and that was really good how Tracy explained about how we was taught to eat the scraps. Both of my grandparents, they was poor, and I didn't even realize that the land that I was living on was basically sharecrop land. That I was upset that until both of my grandparents died, the white man said, okay, you got to leave, okay? And it was upsetting, because this where my roots was grown up, and I wish I had money back then. I would have bought the damn land, excuse my language, but I'm just so upset that that's how my grandmother taught us about how to grow our own lima beans, vegetables. But with that, we had the pigs and the chickens. But with that, we turned around cooking pork chops in the morning, eating biscuits, and it was nothing about watching what we ate. We ate heavy and growing up. And so, you know, and that's why COVID-19, this is before this thing happened. I wanted to go into the rural communities and to talk about health insurance. Emporia, one of my hearts was we was going to do an event called Living Your Best Life Through Health and Fitness. I'm praying that God, that anthem, still want to have it once we get past this. But Emporia is ranked 144th in the state of Virginia in healthcare. And growing up in the rural community, they don't trust doctors, okay? So it was great when I looked at CNN and MSNBC. They're going to look at the rural factor about getting the rural communities out there and getting tested, and that they need to think that this is really serious. So it's just really scary to think that that we need to, you know, get health and care insurance, you know, and it matters to us to vote in November, you know, so we need to put the right person in there so we can get health care for everybody. you know.
Tracy for president? Okay. As long as I get to be vice, but I'll be good. I was going to jump on another topic, but, you know, both of you, all you ladies mentioned education and how they try to get over on us. I want to post something that just hit. And those who don't know, I'm an information techie guy and love to get wherever I can, and I'm one of those guys that's like, oh, I'm not gonna keep it for myself and my close friends. I love to share it, whether you like it or not. But I'm going to share the information. But here's something that's really key that just came out from the FDA. For those who don't know, several areas and locales were receiving antibodies that were not fully tested from China, and that underhanded that was being sent out from those for antibody testing. Departments in Denver and Los Angeles, and also urgent cares in rural areas in Maryland and North Carolina, were supplied by these antibodies that, you know, from businesses, from manufacturers, that was not approved by China's Center for Medical Device Evaluation Unit and the National Medical Product Association, the NMPA, which is their equivalent to the US FDA. Now, what happened is that how that it got through was these businesses took advantage of the fact that being pressured by Trump, relaxed the rules on exporting and things from various overseas locations, including China, which is his favorite country. But now what happened is that now 2 weeks later, the Chinese government had banned it. Because they say, no, we're not shipping nothing without being tested, regardless of what Trump wants. But now, unfortunately, these antibodies, now they're trying to go back to find out who, because they've been proven unreliable. And then, of course, they have not been tested, and then, of course, produce false results because they have not been fully tested. This is how things are going out and about that's not being approved. And you do have some people within the FDA and various government organizations that's spilling the beans and telling the truth. And I do appreciate China for stepping up and shutting it down and returning the money to these people because of what's been happening. Things. One of the things I want to also cover that in this time, I've been very pushing about using this time to heal mentally, emotionally, financially, the best we can financially, and using the time together. We often talk about how, you know, spending more time with our family and our kids and what have you, but now everybody's complaining that you have to do that as such, and catching up with a family. We've been very, and not just within communities of color, but everywhere, been very reluctant in terms of saying, hey, use this time to rest, sleep, heal. Granted, we're worried about bills and things, but using this time to heal, and including the fact of looking in terms of investing. We touched on this a little bit before. The stocks have been falling and been yo-yoing, but looking at that in terms of the stocks, mutual funds, grants, other information out there, and using it to, let's say, hey, we're building our communication, let's work together, let's put some things together and see what we can build. Those who get the stimulus checks to say, hey, instead of running out to get that TV or doing whatever, look, what can we do with families that got multiple children, multiple young adults that's working? Let's put it together and build, maybe purchase a small apartment building or a business or a drop shipping company, whatever. There are many opportunities out there instead of just saying going out and spending, or just we can work together. We're very reluctant. Thoughts, ladies? I'm going to go around the other way. Gwen?
I think for your comment about family, yes, there's an opportunity to spend more time with your family and do some self-reflection and to rest, etc. But there's also situations that because of this, you know, there are women that are in situations, bad family situations, right? So this isn't helping those types of people. Right. So we have to think, you know, broad brushstrokes in terms of, you know, what this really is affecting. There are a lot of women that are in abusive relationships, and now you're like, you know, you're basically trapped with this person, if you will. So that causes me sleepless nights. You know how many women are out there are forced to be confined with who they're with. And I use the word confined if you're in a situation like that. The other is you're right, from a financial perspective, the stimulus checks are supposed to be spent on TVs and shoes and clothes. That's supposed to stimulate the economy. We're the best consumer the US has, and they treat us like garbage. But I mean, if you if you get down to brass tacks, that's what those stimulus checks are supposed to be for.
Right.
You know,
Hey,
so
I'm releasing all language barriers here. Help yourself. And it's like you're about to choke on not saying a few words there.
I
Help
know.
yourself.
I
I'm
know.
releasing all language barriers here.
All
I
right.
started it
Especially
first.
So technically, those checks, if we're spending them that way, that's actually what it's supposed to be for. It's supposed to stimulate the economy. However, the only place you can shop right now is probably Walmart and maybe a few other places, Costco's. But to your point, taking that stimulus check and taking that $1,200 and buying $1,200 worth of stock would make a lot more sense from a long-term perspective, right? Or putting it in your bank account and saving it for that rainy day if this economy doesn't get back into gear in the next, 2 or 3 months. That would be the smart thing to do with it, right? Is to take it and either invest it or put it in, a savings account and hold on to it. But unfortunately, the reason they gave the stimulus checks is to go out and spend it, on that big screen TV and all that stuff. That's, at the end of the day, that's what it's for.
But the trick with that is that you wanted to spend it, but you want to spend it with this different groups. So what happens to the retail stores or the small businesses, those who make clothes, especially many of us are people of color who make their own jewelry, lotions, clothing. We can't spend it because you're closed.
Right. But you can spend it online with small businesses and stuff like
Right.
that, and let that money, kind of circulate. So I'm agreeing with you on one hand, but I also understand that in order to stimulate the economy and keep businesses operational, you have to spend that $1,200 as it was kind of designed to be spent, which is, on those types of things. So it's a catch-22, if you will, right? Because on one hand, we say we need to start saving and start, investing. But on the other hand, we got to also help the economy. And, we are the biggest consumers. I mean, at the end of the day, we are one of the largest consumers in this country. And we need to not be the largest consumer. We need to be a consumer, that actually saves. So I agree with that. But the whole thing about I wanted to go back to those testing kits that came out and that were distributed. The reason that you have this is because it's chaotic with what they're doing in Washington, right? And once you start to strip regulation from the FDA and all these government agencies, if nothing else has been very clear during this crisis, is that you need regulation. It's times like this where you need process and regulation. You need that red tape, if you will, to be able to get things out to the communities, right? And once you get rid of, all of the oversight and things like that, it becomes chaotic, which is what it is now. This is why you have tests coming in that don't work, and that God knows, hopefully they aren't harming anybody or the community, but you don't even know that because it's chaotic, because they've tried to take away all of the oversight that we have in government. And if it's shown them nothing else, it shows you that you do need regulations and you do need some oversight from the government.
And a lot of people have passed one thing that's not being counted from the earlier ones were obviously the genetics and those people of color, the races, background, cultures. Another thing, a lot of people have died were from complications from it, but then they weren't tested for coronavirus because they have died, so they just dumped them. A whole bunch of different situations with that. Ms. Toliver, you have a young one, and you seeing the stimulus and other things coming along. What is it coming in from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, the stimulus has helped. Luckily, I was pretty much afloat before the stimulus came in, so it was pretty much a choice. Luckily, I educated myself financially before this situation hit. I've been reading books and educating myself on how to be more responsible financial, person. But before, if this would have hit me, I know I would have been really affected. Where I wouldn't know what to do, I wouldn't know what to go. I would probably spend majority of the money because I wasn't raised to really understand much about finances. I was told to save, but okay, when you save, eventually you have to spend that money. So, like it's been so long you can save, So I learned, through a couple mentors. One guy called GC for short. He said, you want your money to make babies, and and invest. And that was something that really stuck with me throughout the time since I first heard it. So that's been what I've been trying to do. Now, moving after I studied, how it's been helping me, it gave me more of a confidence, like, okay, I can rest a little bit assured, given that I am a mother of one and I do it mainly by myself. So it's like, I know that, okay, that if you need some clothes, that I can order something online and not have to worry about it touching the profits that I make in my business. Or, if I can help somebody, I can make more of a better partnership, because I don't have to worry about, what's hanging over my shoulder financially. Far as, this, it's kind of hard to, I'm not gonna say hard, but it's a bit challenging, because now that he's home 24/7, and any parent is used to having their child 24/7, especially if they're school-age kids. It's like, and then he has, online activities, and he has, he has IP, so a bit more attention than some children that can that don't need as much. So it's like trying to keep them on the activities while I'm working is a bit challenging for me. So I'm learning new techniques. So for mothers out there that have children with disabilities, just stick in there, because it's gonna be okay. But luckily you have this moment to understand not only yourself, but you understand how you can work around being a family and see what your teachers are going through, when they have them. So it's like, it makes you a better communicator. So I would say embrace this, like I'm embracing it right now.
Yeah.
And with the stimulus check, just it's helping, but I'm saving it, and looking into stocks, looking into things that's going to make sense in the long run. So I won't have to worry about 1,200 or 1,700 being so fast. Maybe it could last 12 months if I manage it well, and make babies.
You got all that money beforehand, like you said. I don't want to tell you all your business, but you just you made 800 grand this past year. So I days, So to the next richest woman out there in the world, Miss Real Talk, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I haven't gotten no stimulus money. So
Either.
if y'all got it, then raise your hand,
haven't.
because I didn't even get it.
I didn't get any. No.
You didn't either, Gwen? Yeah.
She's the only one on here that got the money. See, there's a reason.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think they pressed the button for people with kids. You get your money first, and then everybody else. I think that's what they did.
Well, I was reading a post on Facebook, and it rings truth that I went to check my bank account, and my girlfriend said, "Oh, you should get your stimulus money. You get your stimulus money." And then when I called there, first of all, the system went down. It's overloaded. People are checking by the minute, the hour, to see if a $1,200 check or more hitting your account. And it made me think, why in the hell I'm spending my time waiting on people to give me money? I need to get out and move and make money. I'm so used to doing that. And I showed Mr. LP, I was so depressed. Gwen, Tracy, Mia, I was so depressed because I just had everything going for me. I saw the green light finally. My business gonna shoot up. COVID-19 just killed everything down. So I think another check that we need to look at into how many people are looking about suicides and suicidal, because when you're so used to getting out there, making the money, or you had something going good, and then it's just taken away. I sent out emails to sponsors and stuff. It's crickets. You don't get anything back. And it's like, I got to refocus myself and how I need to make a hustle past COVID-19. That's what I'm sitting up in here killing myself. And then I'm so mad about the decision-making skills that I did. And I'm faced with, okay, I purchased this house. Now I did this and that. I got a car. Why I wasn't thinking, because when you're thinking you're on that high and you going good and you seeing that glory that I'm gonna make all of this money, I'm doing all of this good stuff, and it's just taken away, it's depressing. And I told this to Stephen, thank God he had been around. I've been crying and boo-hooing, and he said, Monica, it's gonna get better. I said, yeah. But when you're a person as a woman of action is getting out here going and you can't, it's depressing. And then I'm sitting up in here waiting on a $1,200 check. I applied for that payroll protection. I finished applying for all of these grants, and then to find out no money is available. Then you find out the people that had the money, and I'm sure I can attest to these ladies here, I don't qualify with the people that I pay out because they on 1099s. Okay, it's all of these red lines of items that they don't tell you at first. When you're a business owner, you can't afford part-time workers, so you got to do 1099s on people that protect you. And
it was supposed to, the thing was supposed to, that whole thing was supposed to go past all that. It was supposed to just give you the money, not the 1099s. If you got part-time, how much money you're going to get back, what's your yearly revenue, all these red lines that small business people don't have time for, much less it don't apply to them in that way. You know, obviously if you're big corporate like Gwen, but still, you know, it just don't work that way.
Yeah, sure. No, I was going to say 1099s do qualify under the PP, what is it, PPA, whatever it was.
Gwen, no, let me tell you something. They told us to hold off because the first priority is, and on the website, you go on there, Stephen Mnuchin said it. Said, oh no, he got up on TV with the press conference with Trump. No, if you got 1099s, you got to hold off because the first priority was for people that had employees of 3 or more. And then next thing you know, I waited. And I told this to Stephen. I said, okay, I'm going to wait. You know, I'm going to take my turn, let the people. And then he said, boom, 1099s now, people you had. And then you look at these SBA qualification. Now just look at one. They're going to have a grant. Maybe y'all will be available for it. If y'all had 3 to 20 employees, you're making over $250,000 to $10 million for the last 3 years. You're qualified for a $5,000 grant.
But the thing is, okay, what's 250? But here's the
I'll forward it to you, Gwen. Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't hear of that. Go ahead, Stephen.
That's a new one because they said the money was out.
That was this morning when we were talking about that. But here's the thing: if you're having 250 to 10 million, which is a wide range. If you got 250, you know what to do. You may not have the resources at that moment, but you know what to do to get to 500, 2 million, and what have you, you know, to double your money. $5,000 is not, you know, sure, it's a help, but I mean, in the grand schemes of it, you know, that's not going to get it like that and things like that. So, you know, that's going to be it. RAWSILK, you work with a lot of these multi-million-dollar organizations, and you ran a few. Your thoughts?
It's crazy. I totally agree with Monica. It's just like personal testimony, just like her, finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and I mean just days away, and then boom, this thing hits and everything spirals out of control. I run 2 nonprofit organizations. I'm the board chair, and I seen that spiral out of control. So like Monica, the first day I was sitting in my chair like I am now, and I'm bawling because I'm just like, you know, thinking about it. But I think what brought me back was to realize that I've had storms before. Okay. And I think Monica can attest to when the doctors say that there is no tomorrows for you, but God say that there is, then all of this stuff is just I do. I never, to be honest with you, I never was waiting for a stimulus check. Just like I don't count on tax money. It's just that I don't spend money that I don't have. So I never was counting on it anyway. So I never checked. I had, like Monica, people calling me, girl, check your bank account or whatever stuff. I knew exactly what was in my bank account and didn't care. If it hit my bank account, fine. If not, it didn't, because the one thing, my bills was getting paid before stimulus money, my mortgage, everything was taken care of. So I'm thankful for that. But I'm like Monica, when you're an actionist and you're used to being out doing things and making things happen, and now people are so tied up and you can't get people on the phone, and communication, everything is overloaded.
Yeah.
I think what humbled me is just like perfect example, and for those that don't know, I manage an apartment communities, and I had one of my residents come down to me for help. This man is 64 years old. He worked for this company for 28 years. And he is already 4 weeks behind in unemployment because, like Miss Real Talk said, the system is so overloaded, it keeps crashing. He can't get, through. And it's only because, not patting myself on the back, but it's only because of relationships that I have with the work that I do outside of work, that I was able to pick up the phone and call the mayor's office and say, okay, look, y'all are going to have to do something, because there's people out there that is suffering right now, that they need this stimulus money and they need their unemployment check. His last check ran out. He's 64 years old. He should not have to go through all of this. Please press 1. Please press 2.
And look, Tracy, then the phone hang up.
And then it
I
hangs
help
up.
someone, and the phone hangs up when you want to
After
speak
3
to
hours on
someone.
hold.
And then
Oh
they
my
put me on
God.
hold. I listen to all of this elevator music, and then the phone hangs up, and then you got to start the process all over again. And so Miss Real Talk is right. Suicidal. It's depressing. The other thing about this is that one of the things that people haven't talked about is, number one, it is rare that people of color address mental health issues anyway, okay? And so
the next line.
isolation can be critical to some people, when now they can't move, they're locked up, they can't go, they can't, you got some people who just like to get out and walk and to do things, and those things is taken away. But we also forget, Gwen touched on a good point when she talked about women, but keep in mind there's some children that are in some abusive family circumstance. Okay, and their only escape was to go to school. There's children in the city of Richmond that I know factual, that because through the work with the NAACP, the only meal that they get that's worth something was school lunches. Okay, and now all of that's been cut out. So I think one of the things out of this for me is I've been focusing on what the aftermath is going to look like, what the aftermath when they finally say this, because we already know Dominion Power, as soon as the State Corporate Commission takes their hand off of their shoulder, they're back to cutting off. Landlords are back to demanding rent.
Let me jump on that just to update people on, if you don't know. People don't know that from the USDA, by law, if school is closed for whatever reason, hurricane, health, wealth, safety, whatever, they are required by law to provide food for you. You hear on the news about, okay, New York City is providing 3 meals a day or whatever. If you're locale, now granted, there's a lot of organizations out there that's helping, and thank God for you. But if you're in a locale that just do not have that luxury, they're supposed to provide some type of way, even if there's a bus that got to go out and bring it. Now they got to practice social distancing and what have you, but they have to buy some way to get you the food. There was a recent report here in Richmond and various other housing organizations. They telling you, look, feed more, this group don't come by and deliver food. You can't do that. Now, there's some of them in different locales around the country are doing it, but by law, you're not supposed to do that, because that's a health risk and that's a safe risk. I want people to know that. 2, for those who are like you said, the SEC are saying that, they take their hands off because they're not supposed to cut off water. They're not supposed to cut off, electricity, gas, all these different things. Now, if it provides a hardship to you, and especially if you have anybody of think is 62 or 65 and over, if there's some medical condition such as, like, if you have asthma, if it's documented that you have asthma, some other breathing, COPD, diabetes, if you're getting dialysis and you have the home machine or you leave, they are not to turn off your electric, power, or gas. And then regardless of whatever they say, and if they so happen to have done so, contact your local legislator. Get their A's off the butt, because now there are
The problem is you can't get nobody on the phone to complain to.
Steve.
Well, and that's
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just putting the information out there. And you're right. I'm not disputing. I'm just putting the information for those who do not know.
Here's the other thing that I think that Tracy has, and I understand what you're saying, Stephen, but what Tracy said was very true, right? So some people are saying, I'm not going to pay my utility bill because I don't have to. Okay, and to
But
Tracy's
that's just the
point,
miseducation.
right? But to Tracy's point, because it sounds like it's the right thing to do right now. It sounds like, all right, I can save that money, but you're not, because you're going to go spend it somewhere else. And to Tracy's point, there's going to be fallout here, because eventually they're going to turn your stuff off, and you're going to be 3 and 4 months behind. That's that's a big bill. Especially, I lived in Chesterfield, and that Southside Electric was horrendous. They're supposed to be a co-op, and I think they were worse than Dominion. Right? Oh, you figure you're going to have 2 and 3 months of bills, and they're going to want their money right away. They're not going to put you on a payment plan. Okay, so you might be able to negotiate one, but by the time you add that up and then add your current bills up, you are in the hole. And I think what we should be telling people is pay your bill. Pay your bill.
Yeah, and you know what? And you
bill.
made a good point, both Tracy and both you, Gwen, and we're going to get Mia in here. But another thing is a trick is they telling people about this deferment. As well as doing that on your mortgage. If you have a mortgage,
it's a difference between deferment and freeze. Yeah.
And then after the 90 days, if you don't pay that money in whole, guess what? They're ready to start collections.
They're going to foreclose on you. Yeah, they're going to foreclose on you.
And I think, Mr. Real, I know you want to go to Mia, but I want to even speak to the people who are renting an apartment, because this is key, because you have a lot of landlords that are offering deferments. But the problem is that if you enter into a deferment agreement and extend it over 6 months, keep in mind that once they lift this pandemic, you are going to be responsible for your full month's rent plus the installment payment that you committed to.
Exactly.
And if you default on any one of them, you're automatically going to find yourself in your local court system up for
eviction,
lease termination, and eviction. Okay, and so one of the things that we have to start doing, we already know that this virus is here. I got mixed things of how it got here, but we already know that it's here. We need to start preparing for the aftermath of what's going to happen once these things is lifted. Because, okay, perfect example. Now we see the idiot in the White House is talking about opening back up the United States, right? And thank God we have some intelligent governors out there that still realize that you can do whatever you want to, but it's up to each individual governor. But for the ones that support this fool, those people in that area are going to be trouble, because the aftermath is that everything is going to be due. Everything is going to, this is not something that we should be just allowing legislators to take their hands off and say, oh, okay, the pandemic is over, and now that's what life is never going to be the same again. And we've got to start looking at how this is going to be, because right here in Virginia, it's Richmond as well, has a homeless crisis going on. And if we don't look at the aftermath of what it's going to look like Ms. Real Talk said, for housing and mortgages and apartments, that crisis is just going to be explosive.
And then you got the reinfection. There's already reports where those who are quote unquote lifted and everybody want to protest to get back out there. Lord forgive me, I am having a somewhat joyful time seeing certain people complaining that they can't do something and being told no and what have you. And I know that's not a thing to smile at, but
I know, because you know what, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all in business. So you have to be careful the message that you deliver to the public.
Exactly.
Because if you want your business to survive after this, calling names and finger pointing ain't good either. Because
all what they doing and the attacking that they doing at people because of that, but then now you're going to reinfect. And I will, trust me, I want all your businesses to succeed, but it's not going to do any good if everybody in your neighborhood done passed off either. So,
right, but what I'm saying is again, if we have to stop in this country thinking about ourselves as silos, okay, if we don't come together as the human race, then we're all gone. It doesn't matter what color you are, what language you speak, came from, and how you got here. It has to be a situation where we have to come together as human beings. And so for me, it's a human virus. My ex is an infectious disease doctor. So I know a lot about these viruses and things like that, and all the other stuff that's there. I lived in Asia, when they had the H1N1. So I think for us, we have to really stop putting ourselves in a silo. We have to stop that, because at the end of the day, if the human race has to survive, right? And so you've got these people that, you know, they wake up every day with hate in their heart. They do. They wake up with hate in their heart. And then if you then embrace that hate, then you're no better than they are. And you're just as, you start to get sick just like they do. And for me, my mother said to me, the two most powerful words in the English language is love and hate. One is going to move you forward. The other is going to kill you. And you can't live in hate. And a lot of people in this country live in hate. And I don't want to live there. To me, we're all human beings.
Amen.
And if we don't start saying we need to survive as human beings, we are all done. We're all done. And don't take hate inside your body. That causes cancers and everything else. You have to release the hate. That's my favorite term. When people say, do you hate so-and-so? I don't have that type of energy.
No,
I don't have the energy to hate anybody.
It just leaves you though. It leads you to a path of destruction.
It does.
So much.
It does. It does. And you know, if you think of anything in any religion, okay, and I'm going to go across the board in any religion, that religious doctrine tells you to love your neighbor, love your family, love. And we don't practice that enough. We don't care enough about other people. And we have to start doing that, because at the end of the day, if this virus hasn't taught us anything, it's taught us that the human race is in trouble right now. We're in trouble.
But that's the key thing, Gwen, what you just said. This virus has not taught us anything. It hasn't. Okay, it hasn't taught us anything, because the same foolishness that was going on before this virus is the same foolishness is going on now. The reality is that we're seen as Black people, white people are seen as white people, Latinos or whatever and stuff separate. The crime hasn't decreased. Okay, in the city, people are still murdering each other. So it hasn't taught us absolutely anything. And so for me, when I looked at this virus, it's kind of, I looked at it like Sodom and Gomorrah. This was God not being pleased, and he was just like, okay, I'm giving you guys a chance to get it together, divine detention, right? Where now we all have to be self-quarantined, self-reflecting and everything. But we can't even get people to respect the process. Okay, we got people on the beach, we got people down on the rocks or whatever and stuff. This goes back to something that Ms. Real Talk said about voting and everything. Getting people in office that have the cojones to do the job, because even the governor here has been too laid back or whatever. He self-quarantined you, but you could go out and play golf, and you could go to the beach, and you could go exercising and fishing. Are you freaking kidding me? People are dying or whatever and stuff, and you allowing people to go to, it should be shut down, period. The one thing that I had a conversation with someone overseas, and the one thing that I always said is, and Mr. LP, you already know, when it comes to leadership overseas, yes, they do rule with a strong fist, and we know that, okay? But this is what's needed right now, strong fist leadership. The one thing that I can say as a New Yorker, I've never been a diehard Como fan. But I can tell you that if Como ran for president, he would get my vote right now. He has led his city and done what he needed to do. He says what he says and means what he says, and that's it. This laid-back, lackadaisical attitude of maybe you can do this, maybe you can't do this, let's go fishing. So, Monica, me and you are going down to Virginia Beach to exercise. Really? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, come on. People are dying. I just came from the city of Richmond.
The mayor, Tracy, you see the mayor in Jacksonville at 5 p.m. today.
Okay.
They going back to regular life.
They going back to regular life. And life is not like it was.
And Florida was one of those states that didn't do a shutdown thing, and then now you're going to have a reinfection rate. Mia, I want to ask from your perspective, and then regarding Chicago, they in Illinois, they're not trying to do half the stuff right there, and then you see the rise regarding that. What are your thoughts on some of these things?
No, they our mayor, she has been doing a lot in our government. They shut down beaches. They're enforcing social distancing. They're shutting down a lot. Where even they're doing curfews and giving tickets if you're out at a certain time. So here it's like people feel like they're in jail when they go outside, and if they don't, but as I was out yesterday, and I did see a difference in traffic. So there's a lot more people coming out. Some crime is starting to come back out here. It's sad. I agree with you. We haven't learned much. It slowed down, but I don't think we have learned much neither. But I do think we are taking precaution. It's just growing, and people don't know how to stay in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just this level of defiance I think people have. We got to get out of this mentality that we have to think of everything tangible. Like, for example, that granted we have people who have died, plenty, unfortunately, whether from this or anything else, but because in their mindset, it's not as much as car deaths, not as much as the flu, not as much as something else. So we're good, it's not as bad, or we're inflating the numbers. But until it's sort of like how you don't care what happens in your community, my kids are grown, until your child or somebody you know had died. Now you want to scream on the news, please help. But you didn't have no sympathy for anybody else. Now in this situation, because you can't see it because it didn't happen to you or maybe anybody immediate, or you think it's just in New York and the major cities, I'm fine because I'm in Florida, I'm in Minnesota, I'm in Iowa, it can't happen to me, but it can happen to you. And then now, because they don't have anything tangible in their hand, it's not like frozen rain, so frozen roads, excuse me, freezing rain. It's not like the snow on the ground. So yeah, we have to shut down. And then you have people protesting, like here in just using Virginia, he's hadn't shut down everything. And then you got people yelling at this man, talking about we got like 12,000 lawsuits filed in a system that's shut down, but people are trying to have all these things because they feel they're impeding on their rights. And then now they're marching in capitals throughout the country that they want to reopen, but you're not looking at the totality of it. And it's just like, shut down.
It's your constitutional right to get sick, but it's not your constitutional right to make everybody else sick.
Everybody else sick.
And that's where it is, right?
And
so
everything.
You want to,
like,
stand in a room and surround yourself with COVID-19, go ahead, just don't leave the room.
Exactly.
But the other thing that is a missing component here with this lockdown is where are all the tests? Nobody has a battle cry for testing equipment. And none of these governors that I've seen or mayors or anybody. I hear the lockdown, we need to shut this down. You're not going to fix it by keeping people in the house for 6 months. You got to find some tests so that we know who has the virus and who's carrying it. So you can
believe that everybody has
let me
it.
help you with that. They need to. What's happening is that reason why some of these other countries are going up for things because, like, granted, we call ourselves the best country in the world for whatever reason, but they have all these different tests that's been ramping up for their population. We are not even ramping up the tests. We don't even have a consistent, decent test. That's because the ones that they have, you still got to wait anywhere between 48 to 7 days to get the results.
Right.
Those who have money. And then you have people, it's easy to get an AIDS, HIV, all these other tests for free and get your results fast, but you can't get this done. And then you still have locations here, Florida, whatever, they charge you up to $300.
But it goes back to the same thing. It's the same thing, Mr. LP, like what you just said. When the AIDS epidemic hit, it was the same exact thing. You couldn't get it tested. Only the rich people could afford it, and only the rich people could seem to mysteriously be able to find it. And so it goes back to what we were just saying about we didn't learn absolutely anything. Because when that epidemic hit, when SARS hit, those were the perfect things to do. Then, like, this man got rid of the pandemic panel response team that Barack Obama had, President Obama had put into place, and those shouldn't happen. I think what this thing, if we don't learn anything out of this, I go back to what Ms. Real Talk said about voting and who you put in the office, and now who is really talking your language. Like for me, I stopped voting Democrat, Republican a long time ago. I started voting for who's talking the language that I need to hear that's going to be responsible for the things that are of concern for me. Because one of the things that I said to my husband is I'm clear that Donald Trump will be back into office once again in November if we don't rally the call or whatever. Because think about it now, we're talking about a pandemic that this man grossly mismanaged the country, but yet the Republicans are still supporting him, still singing his cry, still silencing the medical professional that wants to tell the truth and wants to tell. Those are crimes against this nation. That is bottom line. He has literally imprisoned us with the threat of a virus. Now, I happen to be one of those different people because I believe that this virus was orchestrated. I don't believe that this is just some random virus. I believe that this virus was made in a lab just like they make a lot of the other things, and it got out of hand. That's just me. Okay, I'm not in conspiracy theory. I just know what the United States government has done as being a military brat. I know what the United States has done and is capable of doing.
What you just said has nothing to do with conspiracy theory. It's a fact. Germ warfare has been around for a long time.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
So there's no conspiracy theory there.
But nobody wants to believe that, Gwen, because the thing about it is that, okay, for all of us that are older on here, we know that there have been outbreaks everywhere. But an outbreak usually happens in a concentrated area and then sporadically somewhere because someone traveled or whatever. This thing is the only place that this virus is in is the moon. It's in the Caribbean.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So yeah, everything that they're doing for germ warfare, obviously, as technology grows and science expands, it's going to be a more deadly strain. And I think if you get out accidentally, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. Anybody with any ounce of intelligence knows that every country is developing weapons of destruction, whether they be nuclear.
It was already out there.
That's not even, when people say something about conspiracy theory, I'm like, just pick up a book and read it. I mean, this is not a conspiracy theory. Yeah. The conspiracy theory is that, somebody threw it out there to kill a certain person. That's a conspiracy theory. The fact that these things have been developed is just common knowledge. It's in the scientific community for years and years and years. But they were developing these things.
People forget like what they did with the grasshoppers and bees and when the South America and also Mexico had a control over the crops and foods and oil. So what did the U.S. do? They sent biological weapons to destroy it. So that now we would have more control.
Weapons forever. So that's not a conspiracy theory.
There's all these different things.
Yeah, that's just what's needed. I think is they need to. Just like they had the nuclear weapons, they decided they were going to stop producing so many of them. They need to do that with these germ warfare stuff. This is what American people and anybody, Europeans, everybody should be screaming about. You need to just stop. You need to stop this, because what this is saying is that you can't contain it. If you decided to unleash it on somebody, you can't contain it. You make it. Everybody is vulnerable.
The other
so you
thing
need to just stop. They need to stop it.
Someone said to me yesterday that I never thought about, that anything that the earth develops, the cure is already there in the earth. Yeah. Okay. So if that already lets me know that if you got to go out and try to get scientists together to experiment and try to figure out this thing, that is something that you created. But the other concern that I have is that I'm almost willing to bet that before our children are able to return back to school, they're going to have to get inoculated with whatever this crap is that they're getting ready to invent. And I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
I just need, the thing is, we need some type of immunity and some type of faint raw test, because the only issue with that is that we already know there are people who do not wash their hands, hair come dirty. There are some people who do it just because of whatever they want to do. There are some people who can't. Let's keep in mind that, unfortunately, and not get against what you're saying, because you're right, but unfortunately there's a lot of people who still do not have running water, do not have hot water. One of the things I kept saying is that, are we going to actually use this? Like you said, we didn't learn the lessons regarding the science and technology regarding AIDS and HIV when that hit now, which is the largest one. People keep forgetting. But then now what happens? Are we going to address the fact that there are a lot of schools, even in rich districts, you can go to the bathrooms, you don't have hot water in the schools. We don't have, the food prices are a big problem. We still have daycare issues. We still have housing. So you're going to let all these people who are getting back reinfected come out. There are all these different variables that we have not take the lessons learned. Granted, I'm grateful that you trying to pick up all the homeless people in the state or in the world and put them in hotels. You could have been did that. and things like that. So now you're only doing it because you're worrying about yourselves in terms of those who are rich, and we're going to hurt them. We could care less, because if you actually cared, you really did something and try to help put them programs beforehand. I don't want to keep everybody's time. I want everybody, two things I want to do. I want to go around and have a positive statement and something that going forward that you want people to keep in mind of. I'm going to start off with Author RAWSILK.
I mean, I just want people to keep in mind that there is an end to this. We don't know how long it's going to take, but there is an end to this. So in this still season, to focus on the next phase of your life after COVID-19, because it to me is ridiculous for anyone to say, I can't wait till things get back to normal, or I can't wait till things get back to how it was. Those days are gone. I think that this is that perfect time. I tell you, I've even talked to some people and said, you know what, we might need to get out of this selfish mentality of mine and yours and ours, and pull together like that village used to be together. I just said this to my son yesterday. I said, you know what, I may need to look for a bigger house where you can have your own space with you and your kids. And you know what I'm saying? We have our own space, but we can help each other, because we've gotten so spoiled with everyone having their own, and this is mine, and I don't like sharing with people. But this virus is, when it's over, it's still not going to be over. The cleanup is going to be begun. And it's going to be a good 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years before we see some difference. To the queens that I shared this panel with, I hope that after this virus, your businesses pick up and is abundant as it was. I know it will be, because I know who you are and what you pour into the communities as well as your business. So I just want everybody to stay safe. Use this time to do things. I mean, take some online courses, educate yourself, get some knowledge, look at career changes. Okay, one of the things that really made me look at, I've been in property management for 36 years, and when my health and my life became less important than someone making a dollar, I had to realize that, okay, understand that I work, but I choose to work. I could have been stepped out on faith. God gifted me with so much stuff. I should have been stepped out on faith and did the things that I need to do for me and my family versus for somebody else and their family. So I just encourage people. I just encourage you, please stay safe. I think it's ridiculous to tell people to wash their hands, because if you were trifling before, you're going to be trifling now. If you won't wash your hands, I'm just trying to understand. I'm just trying to understand it. I'm still trying to understand why that we're short on sanitizers and toilet paper, but soap you can buy. I just got a problem. But that's just RAWSILK.
So we're going back to stripping. Okay, no.
You got that pole back here.
Go ahead. Ms. Real Talk.
Yes, I want to wish everyone a lot of prayer, that just like what Tracy said, and I hope everyone had this time to step and reflect and what's really important. And that's why I left the post office. Health was important first. When I realized that these people did not care about my well-being, I had to start protecting myself. And with this whole COVID-19, I'm sure a lot of people are reflecting on how they're going to be doing business with their banks, not giving them a loan, or when they need them, know that they are that type of person that's going to repay them. Another thing that it also reflects about the next level in life, planning ahead. And I was so glad that my mom, and so much now my dad, talking about what do they want to do if something happens. It's too long that we try to avoid the situation until something happens. So, but with all of that, I just want to have everybody to be uplifted in prayer, continuous health, and like Tracy said, I hope everybody business makes it, because I do know some friends that I've been trying to help behind the scenes to give them uplift, to stay in there, that please don't close them doors. God is going to make it through. There's just only an obstacle. It's something much bigger going to happen. Just prepare for the blessings, baby.
Amen. Amen. Ms. Toliver.
Yes, I want to say create your best self. This is the time that God is wanting to season you. And like all of us, you know, we had our high points and we have our low points. And this is the time where we all are going through it. So just team up together. The people that you love the most, the people that you always wanted to work with, those are the time to reach out. People that you haven't spoke to in a long time, reach out to them. That's the time to mend friendships, relationships, parentships, if that's even the word, and educate yourself, because in the next years to come, in the next maybe 10 years, there may be a different type of economy. And learn how to garden, learn how to provide and produce for yourself and your families and your friends. And just pray. You're always going to be in my prayers. All the ladies on this panel as well, even Mr. LP, you know, gonna be in my prayers too, because we all are here to make this happen. You know, this was meant to happen, because even the connection was getting all strange, and I still was able to come back and make a difference with these beautiful people. So always remember that now is not going to determine tomorrow. So you can change now. So make a difference now while you have it, because some people out there that's fighting for their life is needing you right now to encourage them. So encourage them as best as you can, as best as you can. And Miss Real Talk, you got this, okay? And I want to tell everybody, it's about 2 months ago, I was very worried about money. Very, very, very worried about money. I was crying. But something told me to silence my mind. Something just told me to silence my mind. And literally within hours, I made $3,000. Just not just like magically, but by me not worrying about money, I was able to operate in my best self. So I want to just encourage you, and I want to tell just everyone who's able to hear this signal, who hear this call, and whoever we all can reach together with God's help. Just stay encouraged and silence your mind. This is the time to meditate and be within your best being, and understand that you're here for a reason. We're all here for a reason. And this is going to make you stronger. This is all our testimony that we have together, and we're going to make it through together. That's what I have.
Gwen?
Oh yeah, I think you guys said it best. These queens, these ladies here, you guys have said it best. I would just echo everything that was said. For me, I think the message I'd like to leave is that, you know, we've all been affected by what's happened here, and with this virus, and with this economy is where it is right now. And all you can do is embrace what's thrown at you, and, you know, spend time with your families, you know, spend time, like you said, reaching out to folks that you haven't reached out to in a long time. That's what I've been doing. And also, you know, if you're looking at your businesses, I would say, you know, look to see if you can pivot. You know, how can you take your business from, and now I'm going by what Monica said, you know, you are reaching out to sponsors, maybe look at, you know, a different way to get, you know, funding for what you do, and just do a pivot, and, you know, really sit down and think about it. Because sometimes you're so wrapped up, and this is for anybody, right? You're so wrapped up in where you are that you can't see what's around you. And like you said, sometimes if you just let it go, you know, release it, you can see that there are other ways to build on what you have in these trying times. Even with my business, where, you know, people drink wine, they're drinking wine right now. But I'm in a distribution side of the house. So my hands are tied in Virginia as to what I can do. Okay. So I've had to then take a step back and say, okay, they've told me no to everything I've proposed to them. Okay, it's like, no, you can't do that. Okay, so what I've then decided is, okay, I've got to try to look at this from a different vantage point, and maybe not look at it from, you know, selling something with alcohol that ABC has to approve. How about I just start selling mocktails and selling my sangria base, so that the person at home can add their wine or whatever they want to it. And then I don't need ABC to tell me yes or no. So I've actually had to sit back and say, okay, how do I make that work now? So for you, I think, and for me, and for businesses where I'm not doing this and working another job. Now I wish I had, because of a paycheck coming in. But I chose to do this full time. And so doing it full time means that's all you get is what is coming in your door, right? And so I've had to now say, okay, let me take a step back and see what else can we do and offer to our consumers and our customers that doesn't involve an ABC yes or no. So that's what I've had to do. So anybody that has a business as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to pivot. I've pivoted already 3 times in my business, and I've been in business 6.5 years. So I would say, you know, if you want to have a talk about it and, you know, say, all right, Gwen, I heard you. Now, here's what I'm thinking. Does this make sense? I'm more than happy to do that. And I mentor a lot of women entrepreneurs, you know, that want to start a business. And it's not wine, it's not, you know, in the consumer package. Sometimes it's services. And sometimes just having someone say, you know what, that does make sense. Or say, girl, keep going. That's not going to work. Okay, because what you're telling me now just does not seem like you can turn that into a viable product or service or business. And lean on those that, you know, you can get that type of advice from. And I would say that to anybody that's in business right now. You know, look to find a champion. There's a difference between a mentor and a champion. A mentor is going to listen and advise. A champion is going to kick open my damn door for you and say, you know what? Hey, you need to bring on XYZ company, or this lady is awesome and dynamite. And we forget that. We forget that we need a champion. Everybody can get a mentor. Anybody can be a mentor, right? I can tell you, but can somebody open a door and get your foot in? And you got to pull yourself in, right? But can you get my foot in? And I think I would advise that during these turbulent times right now. The one thing that's available, people are available now. They're working from home. They're answering every email now, right? Because they're not standing around in the break room chatting. Because we do that. I worked in the office, right? You spend a little time drinking your coffee and preparing your bagel. You ain't got to do that now. You run right in the kitchen at home.
We're telling all the business today, aren't we?
Yes. And so if now is the time to find yourself a champion and a mentor if you want one. But now is the time, because they will answer an email or a phone call, right? Except unless you're trying to get your stimulus check, as you said. You ain't nobody there. But, you know, don't be waiting on that. I like what I heard here. We're not waiting on those stimulus checks. We're doing what we need to do to move forward. So that would be my advice, is to look for a champion today. That's what we all need. And I had a discussion about that with another group, I won't name them, who kept saying, you know, would you like to mentor? I said, no, I'd like to be a champion. What can I do to open a door? If I can open a door, then that to me is a viable option to spend my time on. And I think most of us as entrepreneurs, we look for mentors. We don't look for champions. So that would be my advice. Find a champion.
Some of the things I want people to remember is my grandmother told me a story, and I remember it. I was maybe 1 or 2. I did 2, I think, and I still remember it to this day. Not the first one thing was that we went to a park and there was all these different colors in the grass, and she told me, you see all these colors in the grass, and saying, yeah, they all grow up in, no matter how much you're cutting down, they gotta keep coming, and there's different colors in the field, and they all have to grow together no matter what. This is the world that we operate. They're going to tell you one thing, which is the green that you see all around, but representing one culture. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're all in that grass soil, and you're going to have to work together to fertilize it. This is also a setup for a pickup. I believe the situation is, you know, like you said, it's an opportunity to pivot, look up some other different things to grow. I do, please contact your family and friends. Do not let petty arguments, disagreements, misunderstandings, mistakes, both you, anybody have made to try to rebuild, because last I checked, this is the only planet we're on, despite whatever they say we got going on in other planets that we can survive. It do us no good if we can't. Why go to another planet if we're going to sit here and keep destroying this and the people within it? Shout out to all the December and January babies that's maybe coming along around here. That's to support them. That's coming out there.
Rona. Don't name
the Corona 19 and everything. Let it go to the ghetto names. Don't fall for. I want people to understand. Don't fall for these commercials. Every time I turn around a commercial, it says, you know, we understand these certain times. This is a crazy time, but we're here for you. You know, they naming everybody, the grocery store worker, and then they find whatever to take the marketing commercial. And being in media and fashion, they always hit me up. Hey, we want somebody to be in this commercial just so you can tell a lie that we care for you for the manipulations, or you can come shop at them. They don't really care because you got your sick time. They're not giving. They only never offered in the first place. You want them to spend all this money in the store because we care about our employees, but you're not giving them the money or doubling. And you see where these hospitals and these organizations are paying people double to work through these times. You can see that they could pay you more and still operate and still make money. You may not make enough money to where you can squeeze blood out of a stone, but you can still make millions and billions of dollars. And so everybody's pants is caught down. You know, movie theaters, you can release first run movies at home. They just did, Universal just did it and made a ton of money. You know, you got all these other things out there. So a lot of things that you can do that, look at what's going on and demand that it can be done further. Businesses where you had to reinvent yourself to how to get the food out, how to get the business out, look to continue the services as you things go over. We have technology and social media. Please get on your family members about securing your information, your backgrounds, your passwords online, that this has to be done. This is not something new. When you were in our ages, when the cassette tapes, you had to learn the cassette from 8-track, that was new technology then. Still, things changing. I understand they have to go. When I want people forget back after this World War II, all these other wars, a lot of the other people, when they had to come home, they got to keep their uniforms and things, what have you. But when it came to us and people of color, they didn't get the uniforms. You came in, whatever you came in, if you could fit it or not or whatever. People used to have to come by, and there were a lot of people who used to sew clothes for them and gave them for $2. A pair of pants was 3 cents, a shirt was 2 cents. And for the military, and they took care of the Black and brown veterans that way, or they ran around and pick up the carts. I remember either outside of Chicago, and then they couldn't even, when the soldiers came home, they got to go put in New York. The others had to go outside in New York, either Westchester County or North, and find your way to get to the city. We used to have to get the wagons and bring people into the city or find other ways because we weren't allowed on the buses. And I say that in terms of that we had to work as a community to find ways to help each other. This is where we have many that we have to, like you said, be a champion and drag and put people in the door. And if you don't see people holding their own, buck up, pull your pants, and accept the fact that you're being challenged and somebody's kicking your butt to do better, then so be it. Let that be the case, and educate yourselves financially. We talked about the mental health aspect that, this is a really trying time. I think everybody, regardless if you think you're okay or not, that everybody needs to talk to somebody and get help. I think not too long ago, I posted a link, and I'm going to repost it again, that, there's all these different people out there in your circles that you may or may not know that's still out there that can provide for you. And please hug your family members and call those ones out there. You never know. I want everybody also, please go around the circle real fast. Everybody name your businesses, information, how they can get in contact with you. Besides Lizzo, how can people reach you, contact you, and get information?
Okay, well, Lizzo spoke for me, but again, I can be reached on Facebook on Author Tracey Hardney-Scott, or on my website at MISSBossLady.com.
So that please for people.
I'm all on Instagram under Author Tracey Hardney-Scott and Bossland Inc.
Spell Ms. Boss Lady because people may not be. MZBOSSLADY.com. You froze for a second. One more time.
MZBOSS.com. Lady, LADY.com. You know how you tell somebody I call you right back and they keep calling, I keep trying to new phone.
You're supposed to put your phone on silent or vibrate. What is going on?
I promise you.
You of all people, did we not talk about this? See, you want to work it double. I'm gonna put you back to work now. Miss Real Talk.
Yes, everyone can follow both of my companies. I have 2 websites, realtalkofmonica.com, as well as risingtoasuccess.com. That's my nonprofit. Of course, you can follow both platforms under both names, Real Talk of Monica and Rising to a Success. And as well, I do have a Sunday program every Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every 4th Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. on Rejoice 101.3 FM, 990 AM with the Real Talk of Monica radio show.
Thank you very kindly. Miss Gwen's had to step away, but you can just look online for SHOECRAZYWINE, a wonderful, great people, G Hurt at SHOECRAZYWINE.com, wonderful company and organization. And Miss Toliver?
You can find me at everywhere at only one, the number one, Miss Beatz with a Z at the end. I'm a producer, singer, songwriter, and I also have a business called the Z Club that we just launched last month. We offer CBD products to people who deal with the anxiety that they have going on and to relieve their depression as well. A lot of things going on with CBD if you do more research, and I'll also be able to help you. We're building the website at the Z Club. .com. We also have a business page that this community is being built over there too. And for the music side of me, it's Misunderstood Beats. It's MSUNDASTOOD and Beats with a Z at the end. And that's all.
All right. And Gwen, there you go. Hey, Miss Gwen, could you tell everybody how they can reach you and information about yourself and what have you?
Oh, okay. I can be reached at G Hurt at Shoemaker, SHOECRAZYWINE.com, G Hurt at SHOECRAZYWINE.com. And as you know, we sell our wines in Total Wine and Walmarts and stuff like that. And like I said, I do mentor. I try to be a champion when I can. I'm very clear when I tell people if I can help you, I will help you. And I'm clear to say when I can't help you. That's what I think the message I'd like to leave for anyone is, in order for us to grow in any of these industries that we're in, whether it's nonprofit or profit making, we need to help each other. We need to assist, right? And that doesn't mean that, you know, it always comes in a monetary situation. You know, it can be, you know, just sitting down and helping someone, you know, build out their business strategy or opening a door.
Hello, everybody. This is the one and only Mr. LP, STEVENSYKES of Enliven Global Media. I do apologize for the technical difficulty at the end. Just wanted to let you know that thank you so very much for watching this video. Thank you so very kindly to Author Tracey Hardney-Scott, to Miss Real Talk Monica Ball, to Miss Mia Toliver, and thank you very much to Miss Gwen Hurt for SHOECRAZYWINE for participating. This is a very important conversation. Please share it, like, comment, share with all your friends and everybody else. And please, if you have any questions, comments, or concern, please feel free to reach out to me at Enliven, ENLIVENGM at gmail.com. Again, that's ENLIVEN@gmail.com, and follow us on our page. And we probably have some more specials coming along soon. Thank you so very kindly, and may you have a pleased, great, and blessed day. Bye-bye.